family, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Lauren McKinney and I love making videos about sustainable fashion and capsule wardrobing. So if that sounds like it's your kind of thing, then you've definitely come to the right place. Today we're going to be talking about fall 2020 trends. Now you might be thinking, Lauren, that doesn't really sound like the kind of thing a capsule wardrobist would be talking about in one of her videos. Well, you might be right, but the good news is that these fall 2020 trends are actually really conducive to being worn sustainably and ethically. So today we're going to be talking about some of my personal tips about how you can wear fall 2020 trends more responsibly. I'm going through a big list of them and I've left my favorite one for the very end, so make sure you stay tuned. But before we get into it, I just want to remind you to subscribe if you haven't already and hit that notification bell just in case you want to be reminded whenever I upload my next video. Let's go ahead and get started. Actually, before we get into the tips, I just want to say one thing. By no means this is a comprehensive list of all of the fall 2020 trends. I love capsule wardrobing and I really like sustainability and sustainable style. And so that is what I lean into. But the thing is that trends kind of influence us inadvertently or subconsciously. Sometimes we don't even notice it. They're also all around us all the time. So I think it's a great idea to find ways to wear these trends that are responsible. Like I said, I'm just a normal girl with a normal capsule wardrobe trying to figure out my way in this fashion world. Let's get into it. I think the first one of these tips is kind of a no-brainer. For those of us who are already into sustainable and ethical fashion, shopping secondhand is probably something you already do. But for those of you who aren't really familiar with secondhand shopping, you can find a lot of great treasures in secondhand and vintage shops. The great thing about trends is that they tend to recirculate. So previous decades will come out again decades later, right? So now in fall 2020, we're seeing a lot of the 90s and we're seeing a lot of the 70s. So really all of the trends that I mentioned today, you can probably find in your local thrift store. And that is a really great thing about secondhand shopping. You get a blast from the past and you look super trendy, but it's happy for your budget and it's happy for the planet. 3 of the trends that I really want to emphasize secondhand shopping for are all leather outfits, colored leather outfits, and fur. Now, all of these trends kind of have something in common, which is that they all kind of depend or lean on the animal side of the fashion industry. Now, both the tanning process and, of course, killing animals for fur are not really great processes, but the thing is that secondhand shops are already full of these materials. So by shopping secondhand for these kinds of trends, you can avoid contributing to the pollution that is the fashion industry. I think leather is a really great one because vintage leather tends to hold up really, really well. You can find old pieces in thrift shops or vintage stores that have lasted for years, and that's a really great deal because it'll probably last you years more. So not only are you buying a piece that is good for the planet, but you're also buying a piece that will probably last you much, much longer. I think that the fur trend is also a really interesting one because you don't necessarily have to buy real fur even at a thrift or vintage shop. You can try to find faux fur at these shops and just kind of give yourself a hint of that glam or that luxe that is fur accented outfits. Another way to embrace fall 2020 trends responsibly is to find those trends that you can actually wear for years to come. So one of the big trends on the runway this year is sparkles, and I mean lots of sparkles. Now, who doesn't love good sparkle accents or even like an all sparkle dress? I have definitely been there. I turned sweet 16 once and I wore an all sequin dress. So we've all been there, done that. And honestly, there's definitely time to be that sparkly. But the great thing about fall 2020 trends in terms of sparkles is that sparkles are a really, really great holiday piece. So not only by kind of leaning into this trend would you be trendy for the fall 2020 season, but this is a piece that you could probably bring back out of your storage every single year around the holidays. The holidays are one of those seasons where sparkles are like all of a sudden 100% okay. So really lean into those sparkles, bring it back, and that way you're not just buying a piece and tossing it when the season is over or when the trend has passed. Another way that you can kind of nod at these fall 2020 trends responsibly is by adding the trends into your outfits through your accessories. So this is a great way to not buy full pieces and spend a lot of money on pieces that you're not going to wear forever, but instead purchasing some accessories that maybe you can wear more long term that will provide a little accent to your outfits. Now, there are 3 trends in mind that I think that really play into this concept. The first one is jewel tones. We're seeing a lot of these like rich colors on the runway this season. So rich purples, rich greens, rich yellows, rich browns, they are everywhere. And these are really good for adding into your closet as accessories because it's right in the name, jewel tones. Go out and buy some costume jewelry. The truth is that you can add these colors into your wardrobe in many ways, not just through jewelry. So you can play up in a necklace or earrings, but you can also play this up in a scarf, in your nail polish, you can play up in a headband. There are several ways that you can lean into these more color-based trends without having to purchase a full outfit that is in that color or a full piece that is that color. Another really good trend for this is fringe. We're seeing fringe everywhere. And I'm not just talking about like a couple danglies here and there. I'm talking about like full length fringe. And it's really dramatic and I kind of love it because it's like totally cowgirl and I'm like really digging that. And I think a good way to do this is to, again, buy it in accessories. So you can buy like a fringe vest. I mean, I guess that kind of counts as a piece, but you can even buy fringe on a bag. You can buy fringe on a scarf. There are so many ways that you can find fringe without having to purchase an entire fringe dress, an entire fringe outfit, right? So these are really great options in terms of playing into that trend without having to buy a whole piece that you're never going to wear after this season. And the last one of these trends that you can really target with your accessories is faux fur or full fur trimming. So a lot of coats that we're seeing on the runway this season have really dramatic collars, and I will address that a little bit later, but one of the most dramatic collars that we are seeing on the runway is just fur collars. Lots of fur trimming, and it's so luxe and it's glamorous. But the thing is if you want to play into that trend, then you have to buy a full coat, and you all know how expensive coats are, like so expensive. No, thank you. Go out, go to a thrift store or a vintage shop and buy an antique stole or buy a scarf that looks like fur. These are really good ways of just like layering it on top of an existing coat that you have without having to buy a full coat and really compromise your budget and your wardrobe. Another tip for wearing these fall 2020 trends responsibly is to play into the vibe of the trend without necessarily copying it word for word. So what I mean there is kind of looking at themes throughout the fall 2020 trends and trying to apply those in a way that you can use things that are already in your closet. So a lot of the trends that we're seeing this fall focus on kind of accentuated, highlighted upper body features. So that includes dramatic puff sleeves, big arms in general, big shoulders in your blazers, as well as really dramatic collars, which I just touched on a little bit in the last tip. So a good way to play into this is to use pieces that you already have. If you got a super chunky sweater, then go ahead and layer that up to make your arms look even puffier. If you're wearing a collared shirt, go ahead and pop it and make it even more dramatic. If you have puffy sleeves, go ahead and wear those and really play into that, right? So don't be afraid to use the pieces that you already have to copy the vibe of a style without having to go out and purchase a piece that is exactly what you saw on the runway or is a replica of what you've seen on the runway that's from some fast fashion brand that's just going to fall apart in a couple of weeks. And the last tip to play into these fall 2020 trends responsibly is my personal favorite tip, and that is to find trends that are really embracing those kind of classic pieces. Now, luckily, we're seeing a lot of this in fall 2020. We're seeing it in several of the trends, but 3 of the ones that I'm thinking about specifically is one that Harper's Bazaar has termed Ivy League, another one that is plaid, and then another one that is embracing of neutral nude tones. All 3 of these really play into things that are already really kind of classic and timeless. Now let's talk about the Ivy League one for a second and the 70s one. These are really kind of leaning into this like 70s academic vibe, and I really dig that. It's like old professor. And I think that's really great. A good way to play into this using pieces that you probably already have in your wardrobe is to like bust out those winter blazers, bust out those glasses. You have loafers, go ahead and wear them. Do you have plaid? wear that plaid. So feel free to really play into that like academic side of fashion. There's a lot of really good patterns and colors going on here. And one of the articles I read said, when in doubt, layer it. So I'm talking plaid on plaid on plaid. You're welcome. And of course, the nude tones trend really does speak for itself. I mean, neutral tones are really having a moment right now, and well, they've been having a moment for like the past couple of years. So chances are you really already know how to lean into this trend. We probably all have some neutral tones in our wardrobe, so really wear those. The great news about this trend is that you can feel even more comfortable sporting a gray monochromatic look. There's nothing like a monochrome look made up of beautiful neutral tones that just really looks so sleek and stylish. There's something very kind of expensive looking about that. And the great news about this is that you can probably play into this using pieces that you already have. All right, everyone, that is it for today's video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button. It does wonders for me as a creator, really pumps me up for that YouTube algorithm, so go ahead and support your girl. I hope that you've enjoyed this video and learned some things. Whatever fall 2020 trend that you lean into, maybe try to use some of these tips that you can really play into it sustainably and responsibly. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye!